Hello, my name is Resham Garg and I'm a citizen of India. The BBC video states that India has a high percentage of people who identify themselves as a global citizen. Quite frankly, I would have never known that. If I were to define an Indian citizen, I would think someone who firstly identifies with his or her religion, secondly, with his or her race. Ironically enough, the national census of the independent India does not recognize any racial groups in India. But ever since the British Raj, the population of India is widely classified according to the racial topology. And lastly, with his or her society group. This is the cliche version of being identified Indian, and honestly, that's pretty much how my grandparents identify themselves. The real question for this discussion, though, is how do I identify my national identity? I think the first thing that comes to my mind is being very conscientious. I'm probably pronouncing the word wrong, but it's on top of my list as my national identity. The factor is an emerging cause in India, and the new generation is really embracing it. I think it's important to understand how this factor came to be. In the mid 2000s, suddenly a lot of people were emerging and they were standing up for the right cause that were being ignored all along. I have a theory as to why this happened. Believe it or not, it was social media, especially Facebook. I remember discussing this with one of my professors back in school. It was not as if there were no moral do gooders before that. It was just that their voice was unheard. The political influence was so strong that these people had little to no means to get their word out, and a lot of them were scared. It was through Facebook people started posting and exposing politicians, policemen, other government organization, or even any racist remarks and other crimes. The best part was that they could do this anonymously. This is when people were forced to face the disposed and outdated mentality they were persuading, and being mum about these things was not helping anybody. I think I was exposed to this conscientiousness really in my molding years, and that's how I think this one is primary for me. The second factor is global curiosity. I don't confuse that with global identity. When I say curiosity, I mean the quest to know more about the world whilst being nationally aware. Again, this is an emerging trend. I think because of lack of resources and lack of education, people initially could not and did not know anything about the world. I think an average and uneducated man in India would tell you that he thinks America is a land of very rich people, big machines, and where girls are allowed to do anything. And this is because he's never seen these things around him. And he pictures that for a foreign land. My curiosity honestly stemmed from TV shows. When I started watching Friends and when I saw Mean Girls for the first time, I was so surprised as to how these girls are so different from me. But I have a very but I had a very liberal upbringing in comparison to some others, and so one can imagine how these shows affected a teenager who was not even allowed to leave her house except for school. I think that's what made people curious, and they started to learn more and push back more. Third part of my national identity, and honestly, this is widely why Indian people are known, is because they are determined and stubborn. Ever since I was a kid, I was told how being hardworking is all that is important. I think Indians can be stubborn. The outdated status people keep pushing to stop any good changes, and the other futuristic people work on bringing about some liberalization for girls or the LGBTQ community, for example. And that is in the tightly knitted society's prejudice. I think at the end, all my factors are correlated. My moral conscientiousness drove me to opinions that were foreign to me, that hence made me curious about the world, and my determination and stubbornness helped me make the unorthodox change of coming to Chicago and become a chef, which affects how being here helps me polish up on my global knowledge even more. India is a nation that can lead the world in future because of its ability to understand and manage diverse group of people, i.e. nations within itself. All we have to do is implement it. Thank you.